Every time you tap your card, pay online, or book a flight, there is a high chance that Visa is involved. But here is the surprising part. Visa does not lend money. It does not issue your card, and it does not take credit risk. So how does it make billions? The answer is simple, but the power behind it is massive. At its core, Visa is not a bank. It is a global payment network. Think of Visa as the invisible system that connects your bank, the merchant's bank, and the payment itself. Every time you make a payment, Visa quietly sits in the middle, making sure everything happens instantly and securely. And for doing that, it takes a very small fee. That might not sound like much, but once you understand the scale, everything starts to make sense. Visa operates at a scale that is hard to imagine. Every year, around $14 to $15 trillion moves through its network, and more than 250 billion transactions are processed annually. That means Visa is not making money from a few big payments. It is making money from almost every small payment, happening all around the world, every second. And this is exactly why the business is so powerful. But to really understand it, we need to look at how that revenue is actually generated. Visa does not rely on a single source of income. Instead, it earns money from four main segments, and each one plays a different role in the system. Let's break them down one by one. First, we have data processing, which is the core engine of the business. Every time you tap your card, click pay online, or use your phone, Visa processes that transaction. It verifies your card, confirms the payment, and sends the information between banks in just milliseconds. And for each of those transactions, Visa earns a small fee. Now here is where it gets interesting. Visa earns roughly 5 to 10 cents per transaction. That may sound tiny, but when you process more than 250 billion transactions per year, those small fees turn into massive revenue. This segment alone represents the largest share of Visa's business, around 40% or more. So in simple terms, the more often people pay, the more Visa earns. But frequency is only one side of the story. The second segment is service revenue, and this is based on how much money is spent. So even if the number of transactions stays the same, if people spend more, Visa still earns more. Visa typically earns around 0.1 to 0.15% of total transaction value. That means for every $100 spent, Visa earns about 10 to 15 cents. Again, very small. But when total payment volume reaches around $14 to $15 trillion per year, that small percentage becomes extremely powerful. This segment makes up roughly 30% or more of total revenue. So now you can see the pattern. Visa earns from how often people pay, and also from how much they spend. Now let's move to one of the most important parts of the business: cross-border payments. This happens whenever money moves between countries. For example, when you travel abroad, shop from a foreign website, or book a hotel in another country. These transactions are more valuable to Visa because they involve currency conversion, more complex processing, and higher fees. Even though cross-border payments are smaller in volume compared to domestic transactions, they contribute around 20 to 25% of total revenue. More importantly, they often generate a larger share of profit. This means that when global travel and international shopping increase, Visa's profitability can grow even faster than its revenue. Finally, there is value-added services. This is where Visa goes beyond payments. It includes fraud detection, data analytics, and consulting services. For example, Visa can help banks detect suspicious transactions, understand customer behavior, or improve their payment strategies. This segment is still relatively small, contributing around 5 to 10% of revenue, but it is growing faster than the rest of the business. And it is highly profitable because these services are often subscription-based and have low incremental cost. In many ways, this is Visa building its future beyond just processing payments. So when you step back and look at everything together, a very clear pattern emerges. Visa is not trying to make a lot of money from each transaction. Instead, it is focused on processing as many transactions as possible. It earns a tiny fee from each payment, whether it is based on frequency or total value. But because those payments happen billions of times across trillions of dollars, the result is a highly scalable and extremely profitable business. And that leads to the big picture. Visa is not just a payment company. It is a toll booth on global commerce. It takes a tiny cut every time money moves. And when trillions of dollars pass through your network, that tiny cut becomes incredibly powerful. In the end, Visa proves one simple idea. You do not need to take big risks to build a great business. You just need to be in the right place, in the middle of the system, and get paid every time money moves.